storms and constant attack by German aircraft and submarines. Alex Last has been hearing from one survivor.
It was 9 o'clock in the evening and I was in my hammock. I was awake and there was an explosion. A torpedo had hit the after part of the ship.
Jack Humble was just 18 when one freezing February night in 1944, his ship, a British destroyer, HMS Mahratta, was torpedoed inside the Arctic Circle. It was one of the escorts for a convoy of merchant ships taking crucial war supplies from Britain to the Soviet Union to help in the Allied fight against Nazi Germany, a run which Churchill had reportedly called the worst journey in the world. Jack, a young gunner, was on his second Arctic convoy.
Convoy was over 40 ships, a very big convoy, and it stretched for miles, practically out of sight. Exciting, till it got further up when it started to get cold. In fact, at times I thought we'd never get there. The cold, ice on board. If you touched anything, it took the skin off you.
Because it was so cold?
Yes, it was so cold. Had to chip the ice off the decks, off the guns.
The waves were pretty big.
Oh, up and down. You see a massive wave coming up and you think this is going to cover us. We get covered, we'll never get back up again. And then you're on the top of a wave and just frightening.
But there was another greater threat to the convoys. German bombers and submarines, the U-boats.
They used to come in wolf packs, and about 8 or 10 at a time, Used to set the depth charges off and things like that, try and find them. 2 torpedoes did go across our bows.
That must play on your nerves.
Oh, it did, no doubt about it. But I think when you got down below and you're mixing and talking and playing cards and having a bit of fun, you forget about it. This is how it worked. Oh, I'm off duty, I'm not going to worry.
And it was one night when Jack was off duty, resting in his hammock, that without warning, a torpedo struck.
Everybody started running out to get on deck. And I was only in my long johns, pointless, running out like this. Started to get dressed, putting as many clothes on as I could. And then I grabbed my life belt, started blowing it up to go out, and there was about half a dozen in front of me. When there was another explosion, the torpedo had hit the midships. The lights all went out, the ship was rocking about, and somebody shouted, "We're blocked, we can't get out." You get that churning in your stomach, frightening fear, in your stomach. You think you're going down with the ship, can't get out.
Eventually, a route was cleared through the debris, and Jack made his way out onto the deck of the ship, which was now sinking into an icy sea so cold that once in, sailors could freeze to death in just a few minutes.
People then were throwing themselves overboard. People were shouting help, shouting for their mothers, and the shouts got less and less and less until there was just the odd shout and then no shouts at all. And people actually died off. I met up with a friend. We were just waiting there on the ship. He said, "Well, I can't swim," he said. Then he said to me, "Can I have your mitts?" So I gave him my mitts, and he started pulling them on his feet to keep warm, Yes.
He had bare feet?
Well, he had socks on, but not boots. There was floats. They hold about 8 people, a little raft, But we couldn't move them because they were iced onto the side of the ship and we couldn't free them. So we just waited on the ship and then it went onto its side and we climbed over the side. I remember throwing my sea boots off and just a few words with a friend Alec of mine. We knew it was getting near the time. More or less said our goodbyes. A wave came over and we were washed off the ship and into the water. Never saw my friend again, because he must have been swallowed up. I was getting sucked under, I couldn't help myself. I was just going down, and I got swirled around, and I don't know, but I came to the top of the water and I swam away from the ship. And I was talking to people in the water, but they were all dead, they didn't answer. It was dark, I couldn't see much, but I did see the ship come up on its end, and I saw the ship go down and that, and made a terrible noise when it was sinking, as though it was crying.
Chances of being picked up in time were desperately slim. It was dark, Jack's ship had been at the back of the convoy, and ships coming to the rescue also risked being torpedoed themselves.
I was covered in black oil fuel, came from the ship. And the water just kept myself moving and just waiting for me time to come. Till this voice said, didn't know somebody else there, I think I can see a ship. Let's swim towards it.
Was that the only voice you heard?
That's the only voice I heard, yes. I don't know who he was, but I can say he probably helped to save my life, really, by saying that. I wouldn't have noticed that of the ship. Swam towards the ship, the chap in front of me, he said, I can't go any further. I was swimming behind him. He said, I can't go any further. As it got to him, you see, the cold had got to him.
What did it feel like, the cold?
I felt the cold in the lower part of the stomach. I don't know if that's normal or not. I thought it would be feet or something like that, but I kept going, and I swam towards this ship, and I wasn't sure what it was, because my eyes were full of this oil, and I thought it could be a U-boat. I wonder if it'll pull me aboard or whether it'll shoot me. But when I got close up, I saw it was a destroyer. It was a destroyer called HMS Impulsive. I shouted up, they threw a line over, but I slipped off the line because I was so cold, and the oil fuel, I slipped off, and a wave took me away from the ship. Then all of a sudden, another wave came and took me up the side of the ship, the lower end of the ship, and they grabbed me. They actually grabbed me and took me below.
How long were you in the water, do you think?
I would think I'd be in the water a good 20 minutes. They reckon about 2 minutes was your limit, 2 or 3 minutes. But as I say, covered in fuel, I would say 20 minutes in the water.
Jack was one of only 16 that survived from a crew of 246. How do you cope as a 17-year-old, an 18-year-old, with losing so many friends?
You'll not believe this. It's perfectly true. I never shed a tear. It was sad, but I didn't cry over it. I suppose it was happening all the time, you know, and there was a war on, and you accept it, I suppose, you know. But it tells on you later.
The convoys to Russia ran from 1941 until the end of the war. More than 3,000 Allied sailors and over 100 ships were lost. Jack Humble left the Navy soon after his ordeal and instead joined the Parachute Regiment. Now 87, he lives in his hometown of Durham in the north of England.